Hello, welcome to GTO Official. This is a page where various past questions and complex theories are going to be breaking down for you to aid understanding. In my previous tutorials, we did something about equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price, tax, and then the elasticity of demand. Today, we are going to learn how to present all these details on the graph. Okay, so here, as I said earlier in my previous video, we have tax and subsidies. Okay, so here when the government impose tax on the goods, you deduct it from the supply equation. Okay, so when the government also, when you go and meet a question whereby the government gave them subsidies, for the subsidies, you add it to the supply equation to get your new supply curve. Okay, so we have a question here and we are going to start with it. So here we have quantity demand equals 40,000 minus 120p. Quantity supply equals 20,000 plus 80p, where our QD equals quantity demand, our QX equals our quantity supply. Okay, then our P is equal to our price. I want us to fasten up. That's why I'm just making it this. So in case you are doing exams or you are writing this, make sure you write them in full. Okay, yeah, so we have our quantity demand, quantity supply, and then our price. Now, if you want to get equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price, here you you equate two equations together. Okay, so you equate the quantity demand equation and the quantity supply equation together to get your equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. You understand? So here you state that at equilibrium, QD equals QX, like this. So when you are done with this, now you create these two equations, which is 40,000 minus 120p is equal to 20,000 plus 80p, like this. Now we are done equating. We have to solve the normal mathematics, which is our basic maths that we normally do. So here we group like terms. We have 40,000 minus our 20,000 will come, which will be 20,000, like this, equals 80p will be there. Then minus 120p will cross, making it positive. Then here, 40,000 minus 20,000, you get 20,000, like this, equals 80p plus 120p, you get 200p. Okay, then you divide by 200. Divide here 2 by 200. Then you get P equals, here your 0 cancel this will also cancel this. Then 2 go to 200, 100. So you get price to be 100 cedis. 100 cedis. Now you have your price. You want your quantity, equilibrium quantity. We have our equilibrium price now. So you state that substitute P equals 100 into quantity demand. Okay, so here our quantity demand equals 40,000 minus 120 by 100, like this. Then you come 40,000, 120 by 8 times 100, you get minus 112,000, like this. So Here, 400 minus our 12,000. Let me point and see what we will get. 40,000 by 12,000 minus 12,000. Sorry, you will get quantity demand equals 28. Then you bring your units because we are dealing with quantity. Now you state that therefore the equilibrium quantity is 280,000 units and price is, so our price too is 100 cedis. Like this, you are done. Okay, so now let's look at what the question also said again. So it says that after determining the equilibrium quantity and the equilibrium price, here sketch the demand function, supply function, and equilibrium on the graph. So here we have our equilibrium price and then the equilibrium quantity. So it says that we should sketch our demand function and our supply function on a curve, okay? But then before that, you have to solve for the demand quantity and then the demand price. Then you also come and solve for your demand quantity supply and then the price of the supply. Now, before that, you write at demand. Like this. Then you state quantity demand equals 40,000 minus 120p. So when p equals 0, our quantity demand will give us 40,000 minus 120 by 0, like this. Then quantity demand will give us 40,000. Okay, our quantity demand will give us 40,000. Then you state again that when quantity demand equals 0, what will be our price too? So if quantity demand too is 0, you equate it, you insert the 0 and then you equate it. It will be 0 equals 40,000 minus 120p. Then you bring your 40,000 here. 40,000 equals minus, sorry, when it crosses the equal sign, it will become negative, minus 120p, all divided by minus 120, minus 120. So our P will give us 40,000 divided by minus 40,000 divided by minus 120. We will get price will be 333.33. Okay, yeah, like this. So we have our quantity demand and then the price. Now at supply, you also state your equation. Okay, so our supply equation was QS equals 20,000 plus 80p, like this. Then you do the same when P equals 0, our quantity supply will be equal to 20,000 plus 80 by 0. QX will give us 20,000 plus this will give us 0. Okay, so I'll just clean this. So quantity supply, okay, let me bring this here. Okay, quantity supply will give us 20,000. Okay, so you state again that when QX equals 0, when we are representing QX equals 0, we will get our price to be 0 equals 20,000 plus 80p, like this. Then our 20 will come minus 20,000 equals 80p. Okay, so here you divide it by our 80, here too by 80. Then our price will be minus 20,000 divided by 80. We will get price to be equal to minus 250, like this. So now all that they wanted from me is that you have to present this curve, the quantity demand curve, and then the quantity supply curve, plus the equilibrium quantity and then the equilibrium price on a graph. Here, we've solved for the equilibrium quantity and then the equilibrium price, which is, we had our equilibrium quantity to be 28,000 units and the equilibrium price to be 100 cedis. Now, also solving for this in the quantity demand, we have our quantity demand to be 40,000 and our price to be 333 cedis. Now, our supply curve too, when we solve, we will get our quantity supply to be 20,000 and then the price to be negative 250. So let's draw the graph and see how it will look like. So I'll clean this one off. And then I will leave this so that we can refer to our equilibrium quantity and then the price. So here, I'll draw my graph. Sorry, my curve is not that good. Then like this. Here will be my quantity. Then here will be my price. I have my 0 here. Okay, so we have, going to the price, we have equilibrium price to be 100. Now let's look at the quantity. The quantity too, we have price to be 333. Then the supply to price to be 250. So here we can start with 50 as the interval. So we have our 50 here, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, then 350, like this. Now I'll get my minus 52 here. Because we have negative as price, we need to also indicate that minus 50 there. We will get our minus 100, minus 150, minus 200, then minus 250, like this. Okay, now let's look at the quantity side too. The quantity, we have 28,000 units, we have 40 units, and then we have 20 units. So here we can start with 10,000, okay, 10K as the interval. So here, instead of me writing the 10,000 and then it will be long, I'll just use K, okay, which is 1,000. So I'll get my 10K here. 20k here, 30k here, my 40k here, 50k here, 60k, then my 70k, like this. Okay, now let's present it on the graph and see how it will look like. So here, our equilibrium quantity is 28,000. So we have 20k here. So our 28,000 will come this side. 28k. Let me do this in this way. It will come to this side. Okay. Then the price too was 100. So it will, if you trace, we'll come and get it somewhere here. Okay. Yeah. We'll get it here as our equilibrium. Okay. Let me trace this one too as the equilibrium. Now, let's plot the quantity demand and then the price on the graph too and see. We have the quantity demand to be 40k. So our 40k is here. Okay. Then our price was 333.333. So 300 will be here. So let me indicate it here. 333. 333.333. Like this. So we'll also get it here. So here we have to draw the demand curve. So my demand curve is this. Okay, we've drawn the demand curve. Now let's also present the supply on the graph and see how it will look like. The supply we had our supply quantity to be 20,000. So 20 will be here. Okay, then the price was minus 250. So minus 252 is here. Now, let's also draw the supply curve and see how it will look like. Sorry, my curve is not that good. So, yeah, supply is also like this. So let me make this S0, D0. Okay, so this is our quantity demand and then the quantity supply curve where we had the equilibrium. So as you can see, when we solve everything equally, it has intersect at the equilibrium exactly where I indicated initially. Okay, yeah, so we are done with the graph for the equilibrium quantity and price, the quantity demand equation and the quantity supply equation. Okay, so now let's look at the next question, what it said. So it stated that the public authority grants a subsidy of 20 cedis on PIN. Okay, so here the public authority has granted them 20 cedis subsidies. Okay, so I'll clean here. I'll clean this side. So that our graph will be there. We can use it to do anything they ask us to do. So subsidy, you indicate. Subsidy. Our subsidy is 20 cedis. 20 cedis like this. Then when they give you subsidy like this, you add it to the quantity supply equation. Okay, so here our quantity supply was let me see the equation again. The quantity supply, our quantity supply was 20,000 plus 80. So now 80p. But then the government has granted them 20 cedis subsidy. So here, all that you do is that it will affect the price, and then you multiply the price 80 cedis by your P plus the subsidy. Okay, like this. So now let's solve for the new supply curve. So our new supply curve will be 20,000 plus 80p plus 80 by 20, 20 by 80, you get 1,600. 1,600. Now let's add it to this. Quantity supply, new quantity supply will be 1,600 plus this, you get 21,600 plus our 80p to be our new supply curve. Okay, so now our new supply curve have been changed to this. So let's look at the next question, what is stated. So after the grant of the subsidy, it says that determine the new equilibrium price and quantity of pin. So here we are going to determine the new quantity, and price equilibrium after the grant of the subsidy. Okay, so at first the one that we did, it was without subsidy, but now they've imposed subsidy. So after imposing the subsidy, we need to look at how the market or the demand curve will look like. Will it be affected or it will not? Okay, so here our quantity demand was KOD was 40,000 minus 120p. So at equilibrium, again, like this, our quantity demand will be equal to new quantity supply curve. And then we have 40,000 minus 120p is equal to our 21,600 plus 80p. Okay, now let's bring this to this side. We get 40,000 minus 21,600 equals our 80p. Then this will come making positive 120p. So 40,000 minus 40,000 minus 21,600. We will get 18,400. 18,400 like this equals 280 plus 120. You get 200p divided by 200. Then you divide here 2 by 200. Okay, our price will be, so 18,400 minus 2 divided by 200. We will get price to be 92. So this is our new equilibrium price. Okay, then let's substitute this into the supply quantity demand equation. Into quantity demand equation. Here we will get quantity demand to be 40,000 minus 120 by our P is 92. Okay, then 40,000 minus 120 by 92. We will get 11,040 like this. Okay, so the 40,000 minus 11,040, you come and get our quantity, equilibrium quantity, new equilibrium quantity to be 28,960 units, like this. So this one, see this will come. Okay, so this is our new price, equilibrium price, and new equilibrium quantity after the authorities give subsidies. Okay, so here this the new, and then the new price and the new. So here it says that we should also sketch the new supply function and equilibrium on the graph that we sketch. So here, let me continue with the sketch. Then we do the supply to, then we add. So here our quantity, the new equilibrium quantity is 28,960 units. So here we will find our quantity to be 28,960. That one will shift to this side. Okay, it will shift to this side, which will be 28,960. Then our new equilibrium price too is 92. So my 92 will be here. Okay, so let me trace it. Yeah, I think I'll get it here. Now we have the new equilibrium quantity and then the new equilibrium price. Now let's solve for the new supply curve and plot it. So the new supply curve was so here the new supply curve was 21,600 plus 80p, like this. So here you state when p equals 0, new quantity supply equals 21,600 plus 0. Let me do this, 80 by 0. Okay, quantity supply, new quantity supply will be 21,600 units. Okay, now you also state that when quantity, new quantity supply equals 0. So 0 is equal to 21,600 plus 80p. So this will cross, making it negative 21,600 equals 80p divided by 80 divided by 80. Then our p will give us minus 21,600 divided by 80. We will get p to be negative 270. Okay, negative 270, like this. So we have the new supply, new quantity supply, and then the price. Let's bring it to the graph and see how it will also look like. So the new quantity supply is 21,000. Our 21,000 to come here, it's 21,600. Let me bring it here. 21,600, like this. Then the price too is negative 270. So let me extend this my price. Then I'll get negative 270 here. Okay, so I have 1 point here. Then other point as the price here. Now let me draw my new supply curve function, which will be this. Okay, so this is S1. So here it means that there is an increase in supply like this. Okay, because the supply curve has shifted rightwards. Okay, so we are done plotting the new supply curve after the grant of the subsidy on the graph. Let's see the next question. So after sketching, so here it says that we should determine how the subsidy will be shared by the producer and the consumer. Okay, so we are done. This is all about the subsidy, how you plot it on the graph. Let's look at how the producer and the consumer will share the subsidy amount of 20 cedis among themselves. And then we will also solve how much the government generated revenue when the government imposed subsidy on them. Okay, so here are producers' share of subsidy equals old equilibrium price. Old equilibrium price minus new equilibrium price. Okay, so here instead of using the old, you can also use original equilibrium price. It is also accepted. So our old equilibrium price was 100 cedis. Then our new PS, consumer share, our new equilibrium price too is 92 cedis. Then producers share will be equal to 8 cedis. Like this. Now consumers share. Consumers share of subsidies. Okay, will be subsidy amount minus our producers share. Okay, since we already have the producers share, so consumers share is equal to the subsidy amount is 20 cedis minus producers share too is 8 cedis. So consumers share will give us 12 cedis. So therefore, make sure you conclude. Producers share is 8 cedis and consumers share is 12 cedis. You are done. Okay. Now we are done sharing the amount to both parties. Let's also look at the angle where it stated that we should find how much the government will earn after granting the subsidy amount. So government revenue. Okay, government revenue will give us equilibrium, new equilibrium. Let me make it that way. New equilibrium quantity times price. New equilibrium quantity and then the price. So our new equilibrium quantity was government revenue. Our new equilibrium quantity was 28,960 multiplied by the tax amount or the price. So let me make subsidy amount, subsidy price or subsidy amount. Okay, in this way, I think this will be better. So 28,000. So let's point this on the calculator. 28,960 by 20 cedis. We will get government revenue to be 57,900. Okay, 579,000. Sorry, 579,200. Okay, so you conclude therefore government revenue is 579,200 Ghana cedis. So you are done. Okay, so this is how we go about it. This is GT Official. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you. Bye bye.